Thank you for joining us today on EdFile. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayola Kasim. Shoppers worldwide are using approximately 500 billion single-use plastic bags per year. This translates to about 1 million bags every minute across the globe, or 150 bags a year for every person on Earth, and the number is rising. The effect of all these waste on our lives and waterways is our focus today on the program. Do stay with us. Cities in developing countries are particularly vulnerable to climate change impacts, especially changes in rainfall because of the exposure to extreme weather events. Excessive rainfall leads to flooding, especially in areas with poor natural drainage systems. Areas where water inundates the capacity of the soil to contain water, and in areas where poor land use practices prevent drainages from channeling excess water away. The heavy rainfall, coupled with bad human activities in relation to the environment and lack of drainage infrastructure in most Nigerian cities, have left hundreds of people distressed and homeless. Plastic shopping bags choked waterways in most cities. Drains clogged by plastic bags and bottles overflow, sometimes causing massive flood in some cases. Flooding in Lagos is nothing new anytime it rains. Sometimes it may be a flash flood, and at other times the flood may be severe. But the truth is that anytime it rains, the metropolis is always in trouble. While movement may be a Herculean task for the commuters, residents are always at the receiving end. Flood menace has ravaged several towns in Nigeria for several decades, leaving its wake loss of thousands of lives and tens of billions of naira worth of properties damaged, which calls for holistic, urgent action. Some professionals, meanwhile, are looking for ways of solving this environmental challenge in a sustainable way. The United Nations Consulate in Nigeria recently partnered the Nigerian Society of Engineers and a waste management company, Globetech Remedial Limited, to unveil an engineering solution for stormwater and sewage challenges in the cities.
Have designed solutions to solve the kind of problem we're having. You know, the challenges we're having, they're not new. We have nations who have passed through this same process, and all they have done was to use technology to solve all these problems. So we don't really have to reinvent the wheel. All we have to do is to do the catch-up, and that's what we believe in, and that's what we're doing with a team of other experts in environment. We have a lot of chambers and culverts and tunnels on the country, and the moment we build those tunnels, we don't go back to maintain them. And what happened is that we now have a lot of deposits and sediments within those tunnels, and what you now have is that rather than those tunnels being a passageway for water, they now become clogged up, and that water now flows on our road. And before you say, Jack, we start losing most of those roads. You know, the road canvas, we lose them off, and we start spending money to reconstruct these roads. And to really maintain those tunnels, you just have to break them again and to really remove the silt. So, and you can see this happening in most of our cities in the country. Abuja is a new city. Most of the drainage there, they are underground drainage channels, and which are not being maintained very well. But this equipment that are available right now affords you to maintain these tunnels so that you don't have this sediment, so that our roads can last longer, because they're designed to last long. But we don't maintain them. That's why they're not lasting that long. Then we also have a lot of estates, government estate, private estate, with a central sewage system. And most of the sewer lines are blocked off. And you'll be lucky to see many of our estates still having the sewage system that still runs. So it's because there's no technology to maintain those sewer lines, and the equipment we have right now maintain those sewer lines. Once the passage around those areas are free, then you don't have a clogging, and the central sewage system can be meaningful. People are running from central sewage system because they don't have the technology to maintain the sewer lines.
The equipment is the first of its kind in Nigeria and other neighboring countries, and has a lifespan of 30 years. The technology is expected to stop the unsafe practices in waste management.
We clear our drainage channels or water areas. We clear the silt and we put them on one side of the road and waiting for them to dewater. We call it dewatering. By the time it stays there, you have one rain or two. It washes back right into the drainage channels. And we continue with our dynamic inactivity. We keep rolling the silt from the drainage, put by the roadside, get it washed back there, and stuff like that. The difference with this one right now is that you have cleaners that suck the silt almost immediately and cut it away immediately. You don't even see it being deposited by the roadside. It sucks and collects and evacuates to go and dispose of immediately. So it makes it a neater way of cleaning this, and it's without stress. It's a lot cheaper and it's without stress. Then for our major drainage channels also, yes, most of the debris there can be sucked up, and a lot of floaters get sucked up in these chambers, and they get evacuated almost immediately, and it can run 24/7.
Meanwhile, experts are warning that the impact of this unsafe disposal of waste, especially plastics, will do more harm than flooding. For more than 50 years, global production of plastic has continued to rise. Some 299 million tons of plastics were produced in 2013, representing a 4% increase over 2012. Recovery and recycling, however, remain insufficient, and millions of tons of plastics end up in landfills and oceans each year. A study tagged Marine Plastic Debris and Microplastics: Global Lessons and Research to Inspire Action and Guide Policy Change found that in 2014, global plastic production exceeded 311 million metric tons, a 4% increase over 2013. Between 4.8 and 12.7 million tons ended up in the ocean as a result of inadequate solid waste management. Microplastics are of particular concern.
Yes, it's becoming a huge threat to the world. Pollution of the waters, particularly the marine environment, from plastics and marine litter.
One study estimated that, on average, every square kilometer of the world's oceans has 63,328 microplastics particles floating at the surface. Marine organisms can be exposed to microplastics through direct ingestion of water and indirectly as predators in food webs. This plastic debris results in an estimated $13 billion a year in losses from damage to marine ecosystems, including financial losses to fisheries and tourism, as well as time spent cleaning beaches. Animals such as seabirds, whales and dolphins can become entangled in plastic matter, and floating plastic items such as discarded nets, docks and boats can transport microbes, algae, invertebrates and fish into non-native regions, affecting the local ecosystems. The oceans are so vast and deep that until fairly recently, it was widely assumed that no matter how much trash and chemicals humans dumped into them, the effect would be negligible. Proponents of dumping in the oceans even had a catchphrase: the solution to pollution is dilution. There is evidence that the oceans have suffered at the hands of mankind for millennia, but recent studies show that degradation, particularly of shoreline areas, has accelerated dramatically in the past 3 centuries as industrial discharge and runoff from farms and coastal cities has increased. Many marine pollutants are released into the environment far upstream from coastlines. Nitrogen-rich fertilizers applied by farmers inland, for example, end up in the local streams, rivers, and groundwater and are eventually deposited in estuaries, bays, and deltas. These excess nutrients can spawn massive blooms of algae that rob the water of oxygen, leaving areas where little or no marine life can exist. Scientists have counted some 400 such dead zones around the world.